You have seen it happen. You step outside, you look toward the back fence, and there it is. A coyote. Standing still, watching you with that flat, unhurried attention that feels like something you cannot quite name. And then it moves into the tree line, into the neighbor's yard, into wherever coyotes go when a human appears. And you go back inside carrying the same explanation everyone carries. It was scared of me. That is why it left. That is what coyotes do around people. They get nervous and they run. I need to show you what was actually happening in that moment. Because the explanation you walked away with is not just incomplete. It is the specific misunderstanding that changes how you behave around these animals, and not in your favor. What happened at that fence was not fear. And the animal that appeared to vanish into the brush did not go there to hide from you. It went there to continue watching you from a position where you could no longer see it. Those are not the same thing, and the difference between them is what this whole video is about. The people who understand this difference interact with coyotes in their neighborhoods in a fundamentally different way than the people who do not. Stay with me through all of it, because the section at the end is the one that makes everything else land, and most people who only catch half of this video miss the part that actually matters. Number 1, what retreat actually means, and why the fear explanation keeps leading people in the wrong direction. Fear in the biological sense is a response that prioritizes immediate escape above everything else. A truly frightened animal does not pause. It does not hold eye contact while it moves. It does not select a specific exit route that keeps you in its peripheral field. Flees. What wildlife researchers who have spent careers studying urban coyote behavior have documented, consistently and across multiple long-term studies, is something that does not fit that description at all. Dr. Stan Gert, who has led the Urban Coyote Research Project in the Chicago metropolitan area for over 2 decades, describes the typical coyote response to a human encounter as strategic withdrawal. The animal moves out of immediate proximity while maintaining maximum information about what the human does next. It is not removing itself from the situation. It is repositioning within the situation to observe it from a location with better cover and better sightlines. The coyote that left your yard did not go home. It went somewhere it could still see you. It was not done with you. It was done being visible to you. If you have been operating on the assumption that retreat means scared and scared means manageable, that assumption is worth examining closely, because the research does not support it, and the animal in question is working from a completely different understanding of what just happened between you. Number 2, the mental model your coyote has been building, and how specific it actually is. A resident coyote, one that has established a home range in a suburban area, does not move through your neighborhood the way you move through it. You navigate by address and habit and purpose. A coyote navigates by behavioral pattern mapping, and the map it has been building is more detailed than most people who share a neighborhood with one have ever been told. Research from the Urban Coyote Research Project, tracking GPS-collared animals across suburban Chicago, found that individual coyotes in residential territories demonstrate knowledge of human activity timing at the level of specific households. They know which yards have dogs that come out at a particular hour. They know which blocks go quiet after 9 and which stay active until midnight. They know which driveways produce headlights late and which are dark by 8. This is not instinct operating at a vague species level. This is accumulated, individual-specific observation organized into a working model of a specific place, and that model includes you, your patterns, your timing, your habits of yard use. The version of your property that exists inside a resident coyote's cognitive map is being updated on a timeline you are not aware of and through observations you have not witnessed. The first time you saw it was almost certainly not the first time it had seen you. Most people find that detail harder to absorb than they expected. Keep that feeling because it is pointing you towards something true. Number 3, the planning behavior that researchers did not expect to find. The word planning carries weight in animal cognition research, and for a long time it was reserved for primates and corvids, the species already accepted as cognitively complex. What the accumulating body of urban coyote research has required researchers to confront is that coyotes demonstrate behavioral flexibility and forward-oriented decision-making that fits the functional definition of planning regardless of how comfortable we are applying that word to them. In Gert's long-term tracking data, one of the findings that drew the most attention was this. GPS records showed individual coyotes consistently adjusting their movement routes in anticipation of predictable human activity, not in response to it. They were not reacting to the dog walker who appeared every morning. They were already routed around that contact point before the walker arrived, having incorporated the pattern into their movement model over previous weeks. The school bus route did not flush them. They had already adjusted their timing around it. The adjustment preceded the event. That is the behavioral signature of an animal that is not just responding to its environment in real time. It is building a model of its environment and acting on projections from that model. And the inputs to that model include you, your schedule, your behavior in past encounters, your predictability or lack of it. All of it is in there. The part of this that most people in suburban neighborhoods have never been told is that the animal they are writing off as a scared runner is doing something cognitively that deserves a more serious word than that. Number 4, how it assessed you before you saw it, and what it had already concluded. By the time you opened your back door on the morning you saw it standing at the fence, that coyote had in all likelihood already been observing you, not that specific morning necessarily, but across a window of prior experience that had produced a working profile of you specifically. Urban coyotes in established residential territories demonstrate what behavioral ecologists call pre-encounter assessment, a pattern in which prior observational data calibrates behavior before direct contact occurs. The coyote at your fence already carried information about whether you move quickly or slowly when you come outside, whether you are typically alone or with a dog, whether you have ever responded to it with hazing behavior or whether your previous reactions have been passive. Whether you are the person in your household who tends to step outside unpredictably at odd hours, or the one whose timing is consistent enough to plan around. All of that was already in the model. And the fact that it was visible to you at all, that it had chosen a position where you could see it, was itself a calculated placement. It was somewhere it had decided it could be, based on what it had already learned about you. That is a different kind of animal than the one you thought you were dealing with. And once you see it clearly, the behavior that follows from that understanding is different too. Number 5, why your behavior in every encounter matters more than you have been told, and what consistent action actually does. If what you are taking from this is a question, some version of what do I do with this, then you are exactly where this video was trying to get you. Because the implication of everything the research shows is that your behavior in coyote encounters is not neutral. It is data. And it accumulates into a classification that shapes how that animal uses your yard, your street, and your neighborhood going forward. A coyote that has learned through repeated experience that a specific human responds with passive retreat, going back inside, watching from the window, doing nothing, has updated its model to include that human as a low-consequence presence in its territory. That is the early stage of what wildlife managers call habituation. And habituation with an animal this cognitively capable, this committed to learning its environment, is not a state that reverses easily. The research on hazing, the practice of making yourself large, advancing rather than retreating, making sustained eye contact, using assertive sound, is not just about what happens in one encounter. It is about what gets written into the animal's model of you over time. A human who consistently hazes gets classified as high consequence. A human who consistently retreats, or does nothing, gets classified as something else entirely. Every encounter you have with a coyote in your area is a data point that is being processed by an animal whose cognitive sophistication has been systematically underestimated by the people living alongside it. The fear assumption is precisely the assumption that produces the passivity that produces the habituation that produces the problem. That coyote was not scared of you. It was reading you, repositioning to continue reading you, and updating a behavioral plan that will govern how it moves through the landscape you share with it for months to come. What you do in those moments is what goes into the model. Not once. Every time. The people who understand this are the ones who maintain a yard that coyotes treat with appropriate caution. The people who do not are the ones who eventually have a different kind of problem. You are watching this video, which means you are already in the first group. Now act like it. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen the same coyote more than once in your neighborhood? Did it behave differently the second time than the first? I want to hear what you noticed. I read every one.